Story begins with Ann Pedersen. After an argument with her sister on February 19, 1983, 10-year-old Ann Pedersen found herself locked outside the family home during a rainstorm. There were no adults at that moment to let her in. Unsure of what to do, she rushed to the local grocery store, where she called her mother and stepfather from a pay phone and asked them to come take her home. While the call was continuing, it became clear that someone else was inside the phone booth with Ann, when a strange male voice suddenly sounded a warning to her mother: if she did not arrive within the next 30 minutes to pick up the child, he would call the police. However, when Angela Pedersen arrived at the store just 15 to 20 minutes later, she discovered that her daughter and the mystery man had disappeared. What happened to Ann Pedersen? The youngest of three daughters, Ann Maria Pedersen, was born in Canada on May 17, 1972, to parents Leo and Angela. Ann, or JoJo, as her friends and family called her, was a kind and shy child who enjoyed helping others. After her parents divorced, her mother was granted full custody of the girls, and Angela's motion to deny visitation rights to their father was granted by the court. They moved regularly, resulting in Ann having to change schools 6 times over a 5-year period. In 1983, the Pedersen family was living in an apartment complex in Vedder Crossing, Chilliwack, Canada. She got along well with all the children, recalls teacher Stuart Grafton. She seemed happy here and had very little difficulty integrating. Ann often missed school because she was not feeling well, but the nature of her health problems is unclear. Ann disappears from the phone booth. On February 19, 1983, Ann was walking down the road with her sister Louise and their cousin when Ann got into an argument with Louise. Louise and their cousin ran ahead, arriving home before Ann. When she arrived, she discovered that the doors were locked, perhaps as a joke that no one had opened the door for her when she knocked. Ann's mother and stepfather were away at a birthday party in Legion, Chilliwack. That night, because of the rain, Ann didn't want to stay out until they got home, so she went to the penny pincher's store. She was inside the store for a short time before returning outside and using the pay phone to call her mother at approximately 8:20 p.m. While in a phone booth, spotted Ann in the company of an unidentified man with a mustache, said to be between 20 to 30 years old, slim in stature, wearing a dark leather jacket. "She called me and said come get me," Angela explained. Then a man's voice intervened: "You better come in half an hour or I'll call the police." However, when Angela arrived at Penny Pincher's a short time later, she was horrified to discover that her daughter was not there at all, nor was the man she had spoken to. Angela was unable to find her daughter anywhere and reported her missing. Royal Canadian Mounted Police conducted a comprehensive search of the area with teams including law enforcement officers, volunteers and dogs. There were no signs of the missing girl or any indications that a crime had occurred. In fact, nothing was found that could explain what happened to her. Although some witnesses saw Ann and the mystery man together, no one has come forward to say they saw one of them leave. It seemed that there was no one who could shed light on what happened in that short period of time between 15 and 20 minutes from the end of the call until Angela arrived to collect her daughter. "Please come," Angela publicly pleaded with the man who was last seen in the company of Ann. "As a mother, I am begging you to come out, please do it for me." However, it took many years until it was finally found. Painful call. According to Sergeant David Ayres, Ann's grandmother, Mary Riley, received a disturbing call on March 5. "When I picked up the phone, I heard a man's voice saying, 'Listen to this,' and then the sound of a child crying." Since Mary's number was not listed and Ann was one of the few who knew him, law enforcement felt this was credible evidence that the missing girl might still be alive. "There's no doubt in my mind it's the baby," Sergeant Ayres said. "I am convinced she is alive." But they were unable to trace the call or identify the person who made it. Unfortunately, the call did not bring back information that could have been the key to finding Ann. It's sad to know that your best friend is gone and there's nothing you can do about it, except help look, Cindy McPhail said. Friend Tracy Jarzen spoke of another change that resulted from the missing girl's kidnapping. Our mothers worry about us a lot now. We must walk home with the other children right when it starts to get dark. End of search. A Royal Canadian Mounted Police spokesperson gave additional details about the search. We searched everywhere on foot, with dogs, and by plane. We even had kayaks on the river, without success. Law enforcement appealed to the public for help. We also asked the public to check their trucks, garages and yards, Sergeant Ayres said. We are covering all sides because it is a large area and we don't really know where to look other than where she was last seen. Her family was sure she wouldn't run away and that she must have been kidnapped. Her sister, Anna Liz, described Joanne as, of course she wouldn't run away or anything like that. Her biological father, Leo, has made a public plea for his daughter's kidnapper to leave her. He also spoke briefly about the family situation after his divorce from Angela. I tried to track them down, but what I was told was that she, Angela, moved every month or two. The search, which ultimately yielded no leads, was ended on March 1st. Similar incidents. Just 5 days after Joanne's disappearance, a similar incident occurred in Chilliwack, when a man grabbed a 12-year-old girl while searching for her pen on the ground. Fortunately, the girl was able to break free and escape unharmed. The assailant, whose age is estimated to be in his late 20s, has not been identified. However, Sergeant Ayres said the two incidents were not related. Additionally, on July 24, 1983, 8-year-old Terry Lynn Scalf disappeared from her apartment complex in Aldergrove, about 30 miles from Chilliwack, after going outside to play with her friends. She has not been found since. Chilliwack police received 2 anonymous letters, one in 2008 and a second in 2011, both claiming to contain information related to the Joann Pedersen case. Investigators were unsure whether both letters were written by the same person, but they found the details in the 2011 note particularly interesting, and even made a small portion of it public, hoping someone might recognize the line. There are certain details, I think, in the letter that only this person would know, said Corporal Tammy Hollingsworth. They came to believe the 2008 message was written by the man from the phone booth, and in 2023, law enforcement made a surprise announcement. Recently, police were able to identify and rule out this man as a suspect, and his identity will not be shared with the public at this time. Her imagined appearance after she grew up if she were alive. But it is unclear how the man from the phone booth could be definitively ruled out as a suspect after so many years, without forensic evidence to work with. Why did he leave so quickly that day? If he really intended to call the police if no one showed up to retrieve Joanne within half an hour, shouldn't he just be an observer? If so, why wasn't he a witness to what happened? However, these questions remain unanswered, at least for the full content of these letters has never been released, and the author of the 2011 memo appears to remain unknown. Joanne's case continues to be investigated, and no additional updates have been announced. This is still an active investigation, and any tips we receive from the public are being followed up by investigators, said Corporal Carmen Keener. It touched everyone's hearts deeply, recalled former crime reporter John L. Dolly. It was a very painful case. It looks like something out of a movie, and yet, it is real. Seeing this little girl in a rainy phone booth, passing by cars, apparently talking to someone in a black coat. They were terrible moments. I've been through a lot over the years, her mother, Angela Pedersen, said sadly during a video statement. To date, Joann Pedersen has not been found and the circumstances of her disappearance remain mysterious.